Words sparked a diplomatic storm this week, and the UK didn't stay silent. A single line aimed at a top military office has now triggered a strong formal protest, and the consequences could ripple far beyond the headlines. Welcome to Power and Policy UK, where global influence meets hard diplomacy. Today, we're unpacking a diplomatic flashpoint as the United Kingdom issues a strong objection over language used against a senior military office, and why this moment matters far beyond protocol. The United Kingdom has voiced a strong objection to language used against the Chief of Defence Force, a move that has drawn significant diplomatic attention and sparked widespread discussion about tone, respect, and protocol in international and domestic discourse. This development follows the issuance of a formal démarche by the UK's acting High Commissioner, signaling that the matter was considered serious enough to warrant an official diplomatic response rather than a quiet exchange behind closed doors. At the heart of the issue is language that the UK has described as objectionable, language that crossed accepted norms and targeted the office of the Chief of Defence Force rather than engaging with policy or institutional concerns in a measured way. In diplomatic circles, words matter immensely. They are weighed, interpreted, and often remembered long after events have passed. When language is perceived as disrespectful toward senior military leadership, particularly in a public or semi-public setting, it can raise concerns that go beyond individual remarks and touch on broader questions of mutual respect, stability, and cooperation. The UK's decision to issue a strong démarche is significant because a démarche is not simply a statement of displeasure. It is a formal diplomatic representation, usually delivered directly to a host government to convey concern, protest, or demand clarification. By choosing this route, the UK made it clear that the issue was not trivial and that it expected the matter to be taken seriously at the highest levels. Diplomatic démarches are carefully calibrated tools. They are firm, but they also aim to preserve dialogue and prevent escalation. According to diplomatic sources, the acting High Commissioner conveyed the UK's objections clearly and unambiguously, stressing that while differences of opinion are natural and even healthy in international and civil military relations, there are boundaries that should not be crossed. Respect for institutions and individuals holding key constitutional roles is one such boundary. The language in question, from the UK's perspective, failed to meet that standard and risked undermining the professionalism and neutrality associated with the office of the Chief of Defence Force. This development has sparked debate across political, media, and public platforms. Supporters of the UK's stance argue that strong language against senior military figures can have unintended consequences. They point out that armed forces leadership often serves as a stabilizing institution, particularly in regions facing complex security challenges. Undermining respect for such roles, they argue, can weaken public confidence and create unnecessary tension within civil-military relations. On the other hand, some voices have cautioned against overreacting to rhetoric, emphasizing the importance of free expression and robust debate. They argue that criticism, even sharp criticism, should not automatically be treated as a diplomatic issue. However, diplomats counter that there is a clear distinction between critique of policy or decisions and language that targets individuals or institutions in a way that is perceived as disrespectful or inflammatory. What makes this situation particularly noteworthy is the timing. The objection comes at a moment when international partnerships, defense cooperation, and regional stability are under increased scrutiny. The UK has long-standing interests in maintaining strong defense relationships and promoting professional standards within armed forces worldwide. By speaking out, the UK appears to be reinforcing its broader message about the importance of responsible discourse, especially when it involves security institutions. The response also highlights the role of acting heads of mission in diplomacy. Even in an interim capacity, an acting high commissioner carries the full authority of their government to represent national interests. The decision to issue a strong démarche underscores that this was not a symbolic gesture, but a deliberate policy choice backed by London. It sends a signal not only to the immediate recipient of the démarche, but also to other partners and observers watching how such issues are handled. From a broader perspective, this episode illustrates how language can become a flashpoint in international relations. In an era of instant communication, social media amplification, and 24-hour news cycles, statements can travel far beyond their original audience. What might once have been a local controversy can quickly gain international attention, compelling governments to respond in order to protect relationships, reputations, and principles. The UK's objection also reflects a consistent diplomatic approach that emphasizes institutional respect. While governments may change and political debates may intensify, the UK has often positioned itself as a defender of professional norms within defense and security establishments. By objecting to language used against the Chief of Defence Force, the UK is reinforcing that stance and signaling that it views respectful engagement as a cornerstone of effective cooperation. Reactions from analysts suggest that the démarche is unlikely to lead to a major diplomatic rift, but it does serve as a warning. It reminds all parties involved that rhetoric has consequences and that even words can strain relationships if they are seen as crossing accepted lines. In many cases, such diplomatic interventions are intended precisely to prevent larger problems by addressing concerns early and directly. As discussions continue, attention will likely turn to how the issue is resolved. Often, the outcome of a démarche involves assurances, clarifications, or a commitment to more measured language going forward. These outcomes rarely make headlines, but they are essential to maintaining functional diplomatic relationships. The goal is not punishment, but correction and mutual understanding. For observers, this situation offers a clear example of how diplomacy works in practice. It is not always about grand treaties or high-profile summits. Sometimes it is about defending standards, setting boundaries, and reminding partners of shared expectations. The UK's strong objection to the language used against the Chief of Defence Force fits squarely within that tradition. As the story develops, it will be important to watch how both sides handle the aftermath. Will there be a softening of tone? Will officials emphasize respect and cooperation in future statements? These signals will indicate whether the démarche has achieved its intended effect. For now, the message from the UK is unmistakable. Language matters, especially when it touches on key national institutions, and diplomatic channels will be used to defend that principle when necessary. This is Power and Policy UK, bringing you the stories that shape power, policy, and global relations. If you value clear analysis over noise, subscribe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next briefing.